7-month-old Emmanuel Haro was reported missing from a Yucaipa parking lot in Southern California in August 2025. His mother made a frantic call to police claiming that she had been attacked and that Emmanuel had been stolen from her. Within days, investigators were led to arresting both parents and charging them with murder, and to this day, Emmanuel has yet to be found. As a medium, I am tuning into the energetics of this case. I will be using my gifts of evidential mediumship and remote viewing to understand what direction Emmanuel's spirit is pointing. I already see that this isn't a kidnapping. I already feel the imprints of trauma, such as screaming, hitting, abuse, and concealment. I already sense a black trash bag, and I see the heavy, dense, foul stench of the landfill. So in this video, I'm going to be going through the facts of the case, what investigators have already revealed, and my own impressions of what has happened to Emmanuel. And my intention is to honor Emmanuel and to hold space for the truth, to ask one simple question, which is, how did the system fail not once but twice in protecting these children? Some mysteries never add up. The files don't match the facts. The evidence raises more questions than answers. And that's where I come in. I'm Pamela Hurley, evidential medium and intuitive investigator, and your guide into the stories that no one can explain. On Decoded, I uncover the cases that keep you up at night. So let's go ahead and start to walk through a timeline of what we know so far in the case. On August 14th, 2025, that's when Emmanuel's mother, Rebecca Haro, called police with a shocking story. She claimed she was in the parking lot of a Big Five sporting goods store in Yucaipa changing Emmanuel's diaper when she was suddenly attacked. According to her account, she lost consciousness, and when she woke up, Emmanuel was gone. Police immediately treated the case as a possible kidnapping. The canine search teams were deployed and the parking lot was immediately sealed off, and surrounding businesses shared all security footage. In the days that follow, very quickly, law enforcement started to grow suspicious. Investigators said that there were major inconsistencies in Rebecca's story, and there was no backup to claim that there was an abduction. Over the next several days, police served search warrants, and at the Haro family's house in Cabazon, they reviewed surveillance footage, they combed through neighborhoods in both Yucaipa and Cabazon and looked for any signs of Emmanuel. By August 22nd, 2025, just over a week later, the case took a dramatic turn. Both Jake and Rebecca Haro were arrested at their home in Cabazon. They were charged with the suspicion of murder and filing a false police report. And what had started as an Amber Alert in California was now being treated as a homicide investigation. Just days later, on August 24th, 2025, search teams expanded their focus. Cadaver dogs were brought to a rugged stretch of the 60 freeway near Gilman Springs Road in Moreno Valley, and even Jake himself, the father, was present at one of these searches, escorted in a prison jumpsuit. Despite these efforts, no remains were found. On August 26, by the end of the month, prosecutors formally filed charges. Jake and Rebecca Haro were arraigned on counts of murder with malice and filing false police reports. Both pleaded not guilty, and their bail was set at $1 million each. In early September 2025, as of now, Emmanuel's body has still not been recovered. Investigators say that they have a strong indication of where he may be, but they have not publicly confirmed a location. So at the timeline, at the present moment, As a evidential medium and a remote viewer, I'd like to take this moment to remind you that I am sharing with you my energetic downloads, and that these ideas are meant to ask questions to help direct stumped law enforcement agencies and families that are dealing with violent crimes. But I'm not here to say that what I'm downloading is absolute truth. I can be wrong. I am not here to solve the case. I understand that there are a lot of circumstances where the legal proceedings are ongoing. So please have a healthy respect to what I have to say and understand that justice must run its course. So now that we're very clear about that disclaimer, I want you to get comfortable with the facts of the case, and I want you to slowly start to open up your intuition, and then let me know in the comments what some of your intuitive ideas and concepts are, because I believe that crowdsourcing and coming together as a community is very helpful. One, at keeping pressure on helping to understand different types of systemic failures that occurred specifically in Emmanuel's case, but also on any cold case where a victim isn't found or where all of the facts are still unknown. We can crowdsource what happened. We saw this in cases like Gabby Petito. With that being said, I also want to remind you that 70% of the people who watch my videos are not actually following. So I would love for you to click the subscribe button and become part of this community to help bring more justice into this world. We are asking questions, we are having healthy conversations, and I would love for you to be part of it. With that being said, I will tell you that how I started to approach understanding what happened to Emmanuel was by simply looking at a picture of him. And one of the first things that he started to share with me was that from the moment he was born, that he was very healthy, and that there was trauma prior to his disappearance that impacted brain health and his physical body. Now, I'm not certain if that's documented by medical professionals or if that's known to Child Protective Services or law enforcement agencies. Again, this is just something that I downloaded because one of the pieces that I was shown is that an angry father was very violent towards him when his anger peaked. And how that showed up was in the form of violent shaking. So I see a lot of shaking. I also hear a lot of yelling, and I hear that there was also physical abuse, like slapping and things like that, which is just totally inconceivable with a 7-month-old child. But we'll talk about how this is possible, particularly with the energetics pointing to Emmanuel's father because of what happened to Emmanuel's half-sister. More on that in a minute. What I was also shown with regards to Emmanuel is that there were issues with the type of food that he was given. So there were 2 places of primary trauma that I feel led to his disappearance. And one, he's showing me that there was some kind of medication or some kind of his tummy was upset, is basically what he was sharing with me. That either he had taken too much of like a cough syrup or been given some kind of over-the-counter medicine that made him very tired. But I also see that there was an instance where father was very upset and that he possibly shook him. And I also see, and I have to be very sensitive with how I portray this, I also see that there is a lot of trauma at the neck. And that particularly to me feels like a combination of him not being able to breathe and being very sick at the time. Both instances were happening to me at the same time when I connected to the energy of Emmanuel. It's a lot to process, I know. And so I just really need to exhale so that I can start to share more pieces with you. The other thing that Emmanuel showed me is that mom knew about dad's violence. And he also shares with me that mother was a victim of violence as well. That there was this edge of violence within the house, a lot of screaming, and there was a lot of physical violence between the both of them. I'm not sure if that's true. That would again be a question that I would propose to any law enforcement agent that is working on the case. I feel like that's probably something naturally that law enforcement agents would investigate. But what I was shown is that there was this tough relationship between the mother and the father, and that the mother also could be very angry and temperamental, but not to the lengths of his father. And again, this is all speculation, so in the realm of being a medium. This is just based on my intuition. From there, I am actually shown that Emmanuel passed into the afterlife. I will share with you, he says that his passing and crossing into the afterlife, that he is in a place of peace, and his little life has become a moment to help heighten the kind of systemic failure that can happen to children in homes of violence. The next thing that I will share with you that Emmanuel has shown me in mediumship is that once he had crossed into the afterlife, which he also shares with me that he didn't have to experience unnecessary pain or struggle, but once he had crossed into the afterlife, he's showing me his body placed on the kitchen table and a black trash bag being used as a method of transportation to a business dumpster. Now, do I think it's the Big Five business dumpster? I don't think that it is. And I do believe that the primary suspect has led police on a goose chase and hasn't actually revealed where the location is. And this makes sense because both Rebecca and Jake have claimed not guilty for Emmanuel's disappearance or death. And it's really hard to prove murder when you don't have a body, just to remind you of legal proceedings. That being said, the next piece that I saw, this garbage bag, was that he was placed into a business dumpster. By the way, I just want to say, this is all energetic downloads, that the man who did this, I should say, the man who did this, who appears like the father figure, that he wasn't even wearing gloves, that he just was very disorganized, and it wasn't that methodical, it wasn't that well thought out. I do think that there has been this element of chance that has provided the opportunity of Emmanuel not being discovered, and I think part of that is because the garbage at this business dumpster where I feel Emmanuel was disposed has been taken to a landfill in the neighboring area. So the name of the landfill that I believe police should investigate, which is San Timoteo Landfill in Redlands, California. Most of the commercial trash that is swept up from Yucaipa to Cabazon is brought to that landfill. So the problem is that it's really difficult for law enforcement agencies to investigate landfills. It requires a lot of manpower. It's difficult because there's constant layers of garbage being put into the landfill, and it can be very distracting for cadaver dogs. That being said, I do believe that police should take time to investigate that particular location. Speaking more about systemic failure, I want to share with you that the father, Jake, was convicted of child cruelty against his daughter. His daughter, who had a different mother, was just 10 weeks old and suffered multiple fractures, brain trauma, and was left with permanent cerebral palsy and bedridden for life. Now, despite this, Jake avoided prison. He served just 1 day and was sentenced to work release and counseling, which to me feels very ineffective at this point. He was actually judged as someone to be low risk to abuse again after passing all of his courses with flying colors. Now I'm going to share something with you. This is a bit personal. I have had domestic violence, and I've experienced sexual assault personally, which is part of the reason why I'm so motivated to speak about domestic violence and sexual assault against women and children. Because I understand what it feels like firsthand, and because I understand how the system fails women and children time and time again. Most narcissistic personality types are able to camouflage and pass government programs with exceedingly high marks because they are adept at being able to pretend the part. This is what narcissists do. This is how narcissists get into the lives of women and to get children to trust them into these horrific crimes that happen. They understand how to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I want to remind you that perhaps there needs to be better programs for those individuals that have been committed for a crime, that have been forced into anger management or other type of counseling services, so that there is perhaps longer programs where their behavior is easier to assess because there's more data. I mean, I don't have all of the solutions, but I want you to understand the idea that Jake passed with flying colors is extraordinary. It is a failure of the psychologist or whoever was running these programs and passed him with such high marks. But now we understand that if harsher measures had been taken, that perhaps Emmanuel would still be known where he was. Maybe he'd still be alive. So this case isn't just about two parents. I do believe, by the way, that I suspect the mother had to operate as an accessory in this particular crime out of the fear of the same thing happening to her. But again, that's an energetic download that has yet to be proven in a court of law. I don't think there's even, I don't know, maybe the police are investigating that angle. I don't know, but I wanted to share with you. That's my energetic take. I do want to say that the system failed not just Emmanuel, but his sister, and that the red flags were there. A prior conviction, a permanently disabled child who had her life stolen by her own father. And yet Emmanuel was still allowed to live in the same household. And now here we are, Emmanuel is still missing, and we still have no idea where he is. So as I connect to Emmanuel, I feel not just the pain of what his little life had to go through, I also feel the pain of his sister. I also feel Emmanuel's essence, the light, the absolute innocence, and a spirit that's remembered for tragedy. I think Emmanuel is asking for us to look deeper into his case and into the system itself that enables individuals to exist in our society. How do we allow cycles of abuse to continue, to go unchecked? How do we protect the most vulnerable? And these are just some of the questions I have for you, so let me know in the comments. This story isn't just about one family. It's about all of us. It's about choosing to speak up. It's reforming the broken system. It is about assisting women and children who are in perilous places that don't have the financial resources to escape their tormentor. It is about creating communities where children are safe. So although Emmanuel's remains have yet to be found and the parents are awaiting trial and they've pleaded not guilty, I want to emphasize, as an evidential medium who looks into true crime, missing person cases, cold cases, I want to hold space energetically for Emmanuel's spirit and for the call to action that he is evoking. If you could simply say a prayer for Emmanuel, if you could share thoughts and reflect within your own private personal life of asking a higher source how we can manage through this better, and to use reason and logic on actions that we can take within our own lives to make small contributions to building better communities. Because opportunity to find better pathways. So may Emmanuel's soul be surrounded in light, and may yours be as well. May his story awaken us to protect every child and woman of domestic violence and assault. And may truth and justice find their way forward.